Hey guys, okay, so I'm gonna do two videos because why not? So I'm gonna talk about Broken Chart Jewel Knight Ashley Reverse. I just talked about Dauntless Dominant Dragon Reverse, and I kind of forgot to point this out because I kind of don't like this card personally, but as a unbiased person, I think it's actually a pretty broken card. So talking about it real fast, it's Limit Break, Kind Last 1, lock a unit, Jewel Knights to be specific, but that's kind of granted already because we're running a Jewel Knight deck anyway. You get to retire an opponent's unit, and you get to call a unit from your deck. Okay, so first of all, what? You get to retire a unit and call a unit from your deck? What? I don't believe this. Okay, so you counterblast one. I'm gonna say it again. Retire a unit and get one. I don't know how I should say this, but this is kind of broken because, no pun by the way, this is just like you get a unit and then you retire a unit for free. Salome's special counterblast is 2 to get 1 unit, but Ashley's is 1 counterblast to retire a unit and get a unit. It's like not even fair. Granted, you have to lock a unit, but the pluses are just so overwhelmingly good. Like with Dauntless Dominant Dragon, all you get is power. But with this, you get a unit for free, technically speaking. I mean, granted, Dauntless Dominant Dragon does not really counterblast, but Ashley's deck does not counterblast anyway, so it's just so good. I don't even know what to say. You get a retire unit for free, which like helps you destroy a unit, and then you get another unit to like help along the way. I mean, it's free. You can just play 3 units at a time, and then you can just overwhelming pressure. You can just play grade 2s, grade 2, grade 2, grade 2, or grade 1 that you're missing, and then just attack with them, and attack, and attack, and attack. And then, not only that, but I think Jewel Knights get a grade 0 that, I think it becomes an AK booster, I think, kind of like the Aquaforce one. So you already have 1 booster, and it's just an overwhelming, just like plus train. So here's the pros: you get to retire a unit and add a card from your deck with 1 counter and a lock. This is similar to Lukier, where you can lock 1 to get a unit and it gets plus 5,000. It's kind of similar to that because you gotta retire one, though instead. So, but the thinking about retiring things is that it requires the fulfillment of Owen, which is you need to have more rear guards than your opponent. And if you're too lazy to get any other grade 2 support, which they're getting by the way, then Owen becomes 11,000 almost all of the time because you just attack with 11,000 because you know you're gonna have more rear guards than your opponent, which is like a granted. Second reason why this is good, you just consistently gain advantage. You don't really have to play anything from your hand, maybe like 1 or 2 cards at a time, but for the most part, you're just playing stuff from your deck, so you don't really have to worry about hand advantage in general. And because it's coming from the deck, you just deck thin your deck more and more, and your deck just becomes filled with triggers, and it's just a chain reaction of just broken stuff. I mean, just getting it for free is amazing on its own. I mean, Counterblast 1, I know it's not free, but it might as well be because you're not counterblasting with anything else in the deck. So you just constantly poop out just units, and it's just so good. The chains is just so good. And last but not least, she's a Crossride. Like, it's a Crossride. 13,000 with constant units, like Lugia Reverse, but you get to retire stuff, and it just throws off your opponent's, like, just feel in general, and it's just, like, and if it's kind of like Dauntless Drive where you retire the boosters, but since you're destroying the attackers, you might mess up their rows, their lanes, and then they can't attack Ashley Reverse, and then it's just a good day for you. Yeah. Cons as to why I think it's bad. You have the lock unit, so similar to Dominant Dragon, you have 1 weak-ass rearguard lane, or you get 1 really strong, just rearguard lane, but you get this weak Vanguard lane, which is kind of unfortunate. It's just kind of weak attacks, but you make up for it with your just constantly pushing attacks. I think a pro to this would be the fact that after you counterblast 5 and you generate enough pluses, you kind of don't have to worry about that anymore and just continue with your regular onslaught. But for the most part, it's just kind of a con because you're going to be locking yourself like 4 times in a row. So that's something to be aware of, I suppose. Second reason why I think it's terrible, the break ride sucks. I think it's the worst break ride in the game. Plus 10,000 and plus 1 critical. Like Dai Kaiser has that. Tyranno something. The Tai Chikaze break ride has that too. And I feel like they could have done more for Royal Paladins, something like they did with Shadow Paladins, but I mean, they're going to guard it anyway with a perfect guard almost all the time because it's a break ride. I mean, there are break rides already in the game that give +1 criticals, like, you know, like Vert into Labrador, she gets a critical for free. I mean, is that not broken? So, in that consensus, I believe that it's one of the worst break rides in the game because you don't really plus out of it. You kind of just minus your opponent 1, 2 cards. Like, I mean, if they don't have a perfect guard, then it is fatal for them, but for the most part, it's they're just gonna perfect guard, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It just doesn't matter, honestly. So I feel like it's a very weak break ride in general, which is why I think Ashley Reverse kind of had to offset that with her broken ability. And lastly, I don't know. I can't really think of a third reason. This card is just pretty amazing in general, I feel. I mean, they have the consistency of Royal Paladins constantly coming out of deck, and they retire stuff along the way. I mean, it's kind of just like Blaster Blade as a grade 3, but better. So, I can't really think of a third con. If anything, I really think she's ugly, aesthetic-wise. I really hope for Salome Crossride, because I really, really like Salome. I built the Jewel Knight deck with Salome and Ashley, but I really didn't like Ashley just because her effect is just obscenely terrible as a break ride. And I personally like Salome better as a general. I mean, I'm sure everybody does, because Salome's effect is one of the best. But Ashley Versus effect is also really good. But the reason why I like Salome more is because you don't have to lock a unit. She gets a critical. I mean, she is a 10,000 Vanguard, but for the most part, she's pretty amazing, in my opinion. I think I made a video about that, like, a long time ago, and I said that she's amazing. So, I mean, Ashley Reverse is also amazing, but she's not as pretty as Salome. So, aesthetic-wise, I think Ashley Reverse could have done better. Or, I don't know, reverse Salome. I mean, I'd pretty be sad, but come on, we need Salome Crossride. As a last remarks, I just think this card is it's pretty good. I think I'm going to be seeing it a lot in play just because you can just constantly add cards. It is once per turn, don't get me wrong. It is, you can only activate this effect once per turn, but a free unit once per turn, not free, you get the idea. It's just really consistent and just really flows well together. I mean, if you miss the ride, unlike Dominate Dragon, where if you miss the cross ride, it's kind of bad for you. With Ashley Reverse, it's not exactly bad, and you just constantly just throw your opponent off with just advantage and throwing the rear guards away. And it's just a consistent flow of things, which is really good. If anything, I feel like this is really bad, though, just because the first Royal Paladin Crossride is a reverse unit. I mean, Royal Paladin has been there since, like, set 1, and it's, like the justice of all justice. So, I kind of feel like they got gimped severely due to this, because Royal Paladins got a reverse Crossride as their first Crossride. I mean, other units, too, they don't really deserve it. But some do. I mean, it makes sense that Pale Moons and Dark Railers got reversed because they're Dark Zone and they're evil and stuff, and it's obvious. But Royal Paladins and Angel Feathers, I mean, granted, they are really good, and they're really offensive, and they're really awesome, but the fact that they're United Sanctuary reverse units is kind of a letdown, but that's okay. If you're looking for a really powerful Royal Paladin unit, this is one of them, for sure. Sanctuary Guard Dragon will be the other one, but this card is just flat out amazing. Like, it's really good. I think that's all I can say about it. It's just a generally really good card. Because it's 11,000, can be a cross ride, retires a unit, gets a unit for free. Yeah, so that's it for this guy's episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, hopefully there'll be cooler cards for Brilliant Strike.